I just wish that sometimes, at my level, sometimes just being less afraid and more courageous to do things to make it happen.
Welcome, guys, to Taxonomy. In today's episode, we are joined by a dynamic entrepreneurs who traded bustling city of Singapore for the creative landscape of Cambodia. So meet Sam with us in this call, the visionary behind Futurescape.
Thanks, Dan, for the introduction. Yeah, so my name's Sam, and I've moved from Singapore to Cambodia 4 years ago, back in 2019, and kind of like settled into this new life here. And along the process, started this new creative media and digital company called Futurescape Studios. So yeah, we cover a huge range of things, everything to do with creative, anything that's kind of like in and out of this segment of creative. We cover them all. So locally here with our local partners and also some different businesses, we have built a platform locally in Cambodia to reach out to the ever-changing needs and to meet all the different requirements and needs that presents itself for us. So yeah, we find creative solutions to all the creative problems that we have here.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very detailed introductions of Futurescape. I mean, for myself, I've been engaging several creative industry leaders as well, right? I mean, one of the unusual thing I think you have done is probably venturing into Cambodia, right? Because for myself, even for my own business with Blue Silo and Sigma Wave, we do venture into various domain in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand. But I think Cambodia would be something pretty interesting, right? It's not something very common. I think especially from a Singaporean perspective to decide to settle down in Cambodia and then start the business. I mean, this is something that really interesting and triggers me to why we are actually we wanted to do this interview podcast session with you to find out more about your journey, right? So I mean, probably just to talk about why Cambodia? I mean, of all places.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we get this a lot. Like,
Yeah.
of all the places in Southeast Asia, why Cambodia, right? So I think Cambodia kind of holds a special place in my heart as well. Like, I mean, the first time I was ever in Cambodia, it was back in 2011, and it was for like a kind of like a church mission trip. So I was actually here for the first time back in 2011. Then didn't came across Cambodia for like a really long time before I kind of like stumbled back at it in 2018. So I came back here in 2018 by myself to come and check out the place, to come just do life and just see like what are the opportunities around. And I was actually kind of like traveling around the world back at that time as well. I was like in Korea, in Japan, in Australia, in all those other like more developed countries. And I was also in our other countries around the region, such as like Indonesia, Malaysia, and even Vietnam as well. So, but why did I pick Cambodia? Because I think amongst all the countries around this area, I would say that Cambodia would be it feels as though like this place is kind of like the land of opportunities. Like the moment you step in and the moment like you get to the airport and you step
Yeah,
out and you go
yeah, it's like
around
home. Yeah, it's like wow.
when
I
you're
see
yeah.
gold mine.
I know. So it's kind of like you take the tuk-tuk right into the city and you're just visually looking around all around you, like billboards, buildings, the streets, and seeing people around. And suddenly you feel like there's this sense that, oh, maybe there's something that you could bring. There's something that you could put over here, for an instance. Yeah, so like I think this was kind of like the journey I had coming here. And eventually, after visiting multiple times, I've decided that Cambodia could be somewhere for me to bring something, and at the same time take something and learn something as well. So yeah, it's not a conventional place to go, for sure. It presents its own sets of challenges and certain things, you know, it takes a bit of time to get used to. But especially when we are all coming from Singapore, when everything is like super efficient, everything's kind of like it's this way and you get it this way. But here it's kind of different. So in itself, it's like a bit more fun, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely I can relate to that. Because we first started building a team in Indonesia, right? It was not a very popular place. Yeah, I think culture different, right? I think work culture different is the key hurdles to cross. Because sometimes they even speak different language. Yeah, so in fact, last week I was in Thailand, right? So we were exhibiting at a event. So representing Sigma Wave. So we were there at the event. I mean, that's one thing that you pointed out that I felt that it was very true. Is I would say Thailand have quite similar environment landscape as compared to Cambodia. There are some resemblance area whereby they are more or less very similar in terms of the culture as well, right? I think so. In Thailand, something that we realize is, it's a bustling city, it's dynamic, but I do agree also at the point that there are a lot more opportunities that you can actually copy and paste, right, and then do some localizations to the local market. Because there are a lot of things that I felt that we have initiated in Singapore, right? Especially it's mostly government driven. So that's why most of the startups are getting more support from the government, right? Because it's more privileged to start a business in Singapore, right? But there are a lot more new ideas that I find that if you were to localize it in Cambodia landscape, I think that itself would also surface more opportunity for business. Yeah, but I am aware as well, Cambodia could be a place that is more price competitive, right? Because the purchasing power in terms of the local market may not be as strong. What are you doing basically to stay competitive in the industry in basically Cambodia?
Yeah. So yeah, like this is I think a very real challenge as is presented to us as well. Like especially locally when there's something that you used to charge like maybe $2,000 for.
Oh, yes.
You have to kind of accept like locally you can never charge that kind of price. And you have very good competition, especially with like the locals as well. Like sometimes they can catch on to things fast and they can imitate it in certain ways. And imitation in itself is a work of art as well. It's like
Yeah.
you kind of see something you like, you get inspired from it, and then
Yeah.
you take it and then you try to go through the process of creating that same result, and then from there you learn what you get from there. So like I would say, like in Cambodia, a lot of people can do that. And in terms of like sometimes when we want to stay competitive and ahead of others,
Yeah.
what we need to do is we need to present what we are different at from the rest, because price is something that we also have to compromise on our end. It's like sometimes we have to put a much more competitive price, and sometimes like you just feel like it's a bit lower than what you might expect. But at the same time, you also have to come with like this sense that oh, we are bringing something onto the table, we are learning from it, we are getting experience, or we are doing this for a portfolio, for example. So things like that would actually make us feel a bit more comfortable in terms of like trying to be competitive. And of course, when people start to see that, oh, you are working on multiple projects and you actually do a good job with them, and they see that you are coming from a competitive price point, then only would you be able to do like like you have more quantity, but this can sustain a business, for example, in Cambodia. So this is kind of like how for us, like we definitely face a lot of challenge coming from sometimes even sending quotations and things like that. A local person would do something just to undercut your price.
Yeah.
But yeah, where's the quality and where's the all those lies in how we have built the trust with them, with the client over the many projects we have done previously. So yeah, this is kind of like the way that we have to balance out, like, and how to survive in Cambodia basically for a business. Yeah.
I see. So, but what were some of the key challenges? And because in a foreign country, I think language would be a problem, right, in the initial phase,
Yeah.
and then market differences in terms of price point. But then in terms of the expectations, do you find what you are doing right now? I mean, from what you set up for in the very initial stage, has the expectation been met in terms of your vision for Futurescape?
Right. I would say the expectations and of course the landscape of like whatever is accepted is very different from what we have in Singapore, for example.
Yeah.
And coming into this, there are certain concepts and certain ideas and things like that that the locals just because I would say like in terms of certain stuff, they are still a bit behind. So like if you bring an idea that is too fresh or something that is too new,
Yeah.
you might not find everyone that accept it, right? And and that's why like also to do with like clients and things like that. Sometimes when we find the right client that are a bit more open to new ideas, then it's very easy. But most of the times we actually do get like people that are very skeptical on a lot of stuff. It's like, oh, can this work? Could this work? Could it not?
Mm.
Like, what's going to be the result? We don't know anything, and then why should we pay this much for it? Why should we
Right.
give it a go? Why should we try it? So it's just kind of like things like that, and like yeah, we really notice like sometimes it's about to bringing new concepts, new ideas to adapt it from from outside into a Cambodian context is a bit
Yeah, which
challenging
is
at times. Yeah.
understand, which is more on localization, right? How do you
Right, right.
fit
Mhm.
your solution to the demand or the requirement from the client side? But do you often see a lot of Singaporean in Cambodia doing business right now?
Actually, to my surprise as well, there's quite a
Mm,
number of Singaporean business here,
I see.
in the multiple like sectors, like financial sector, media sector, and even in the F&B sector. I think these are the mainly the three that I've seen like more involvement from like Singaporean and their businesses as well. So yeah, I mean, I see the same challenge that they face. I've talked to a few of them, and yeah, because Cambodia kind of lives like in this little bubble by itself. Like there's almost like this different way of life that people lead here. So in terms of like the sentiment value of like money and things like
Mm,
that, I think it's very different as well. So you can imagine quite a lot of differences coming from this area.
right. I see. I mean, when we talk about is there any community that governs the or support from the Singaporean side? Because in Vietnam, I do know they have this thing like chamber like of business that actually governs in Vietnam or Thailand. But is there any similar associations or chamber that help support the local Singaporean in terms of their business venture in Cambodia?
Yes, there is. And actually, I'm also part of one of it's called Singapore Business Investment Forum, so SBIF
Mm,
in short. So they are also one of the few like groups like this that and there's also like Singapore Club Cambodia, different groups here that caters for some is like on a more business level, some would be on a more like investment level, and some is actually like more like a Singaporean community club, so like for families and things like that as well. So actually the community of Singaporeans here is small, but there's quite a number of them as well. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, because I mean, Cambodia is also a location that I mean, personally, I'm considering, right? Because after hearing a lot from our friend, one of the close friend of mine who shared a bit more about his experience in Cambodia, that's actually one location I'm looking to expand in terms of the team expansion. And in fact, during the last event that I went, there was also one guy that I met at the event. He's running his business, right, using ChatGPT in the local landscape, yeah, for healthcare. That means there's a application that he built, right, that is allowing people to ask questions, right, and then the ChatGPT system basically that he leveraged on can answer in terms of the diagnostics and providing feedback and informations. So I mean, this actually changed my perspective of Cambodia by a lot more, right? Because initially when I was there, I think 4 years back actually, before pandemic, I was there for a holiday trip. So I suppose things has changed quite a fair bit, right? Since then and now, especially post-COVID, when most people are also turning to online session, online digital solutions, right? So probably it's a good place for myself to venture. Probably, I mean, what are some of the key advice that you will also share with me or with the audience who are with on our podcast in terms of what are the key areas that you find they should actually look out for, or would there be any area that you find that we can avoid making certain mistakes from your experience?
Yeah, so I think in Cambodia, I mean, like we have mentioned earlier, it's a land of opportunity. So
Mm,
definitely there's a lot of things, a lot of areas that different elements that you can bring into like this place, and these are things that people might need here, services that people might be looking for, products that people might be looking for. So like I've seen in Cambodia recently, there's many like fintech companies coming in, so to do with like payments, payment gateways
mm,
and things like that. Financial institutions are working on multiple projects here, and there's also a lot of people doing manufacturing and all this sort of like agriculture type of stuff as well. So I would say in Cambodia there's quite a lot of things that anyone can bring. And to be honest, I think one thing that is so special about Cambodia is that when you come to this space, it's kind of like a wide open canvas, that whatever ideas you have, whatever things you want to do, you can actually make it happen. So in that sense, like I would say, like for any entrepreneurs that is looking for a place that still hasn't been like very ventured into things like that, Cambodia would be a good place. But of course, we also have to be mindful of certain things, such as, like I think sometimes some people come here, they don't really want to spend a lot of time here. So most of
mhm.
the time they'll just go once or twice, and then they will just be like, okay, I want to do something here. And then they try to do it, put all the resources they have into it. And in the end, it flopped. And then they're like, oh, Cambodia is like not the right place to do any business or things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a rookie mistake that a lot of people make, is that they don't come here to understand the culture, to understand the market, to understand the people, and also like the lifestyle, because these are all very like important factors to factor in when you are trying to expand into a new territory, for example. Yeah, so these are some of the things that I would say, like before coming to Cambodia, you have to be mindful of all these different things, understand the local political situation, understand the
Mm.
local context, understand the local culture and everything like that. Yeah.
Is there any like very specific or significant incident or challenge that actually happened to you that you find is the most memorable? I mean, from your time in spending in Cambodia.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, in Cambodia, it's like a pretty open space.
Mm,
So anyone can be here, like anyone of whatever nature can be here as well. So one of the things that I've experienced myself is when you are, especially if you are like building business and things like that, you really have to be careful of like the people you meet, I would say.
yeah.
So over the past few years, I've met a few like more sketchy characters of course they will come in the sense like, oh, we want to like fund you, or we want to work with you, things like
Right.
that. And because in Cambodia, there's not like, in Singapore, a lot of things is black and white. There's a lot of things different steps that you can take before you proceed on to do something. But in Cambodia, it's a lot more, it's not as simple as it is. And sometimes like people can tell you whatever they want to tell you. So like I think in my early stage of like trying to open a company and things like that, sometimes you hear a lot of people say, oh, we can provide you this much investment, or we can work with you on this, work on you with that, and things like that. But it's just like, I think I screwed up the first time I was trying to like open up a media company. We got screwed. Like we paid for all the registration, we got all the things ready and everything, and then the person just took off with the money and things like that. So yeah, that was like my first experience of like trying
It's
to
a scam.
yeah. So like this type of things exist, and I think it's also a learning curve, especially for a lot of people that are coming here. And in the end, I had to like deal with it and just keep trying again, like restarting the company, things like that. Yeah, so it's like I think these are the things that happens a lot more often here than in other countries. For example, like people here sometimes they might not be as authentic as they want to be, so sometimes it's also a bit harder to get the right type of like collaborations or things like that, because everyone sometimes they might have like different agendas or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So a friend of mine started his business in Vietnam. He's a Korean. So they have a business in Vietnam doing financing between the manufacturing plant and the reseller that are getting stocks from them, or getting all the key products from their side. So this is what they are doing in Vietnam. But the key thing that he brought up to me was, never trust any verbal agreement. I mean, Vietnam, or I think Cambodia, pretty much they are also sharing the same, I would say, work culture, right? So they say don't trust any verbal agreement, because in Korea it's very different, right? In
Right.
Korea, people do business based on reputation. So reputations makes a lot of sense when it comes to Korean culture, right? Because they can literally just put their word on it, and then people will trust them, because they know if they screwed it up, the whole industry will know about it, and that's it. For them, they cannot afford to run business, right, in this same sector. I think this is why I think when you are in a foreign country, you have to be extra careful. So one thing that he told me, don't assume your business partner knows everything when he's from Vietnam or Cambodia, be it a foreign country, right? So don't assume anything. Write everything down, even the most simplest term, right? Put everything down in black and white, right? Don't assume he knows everything, just to make sure that you safeguard your own interest. I think this is something that I have to agree, not just because Singapore is too safe, right? In Singapore, we know that it is a crime, right? Or it is it's not the right way, because we are not being taught this way, we're not brought up this way, right? In terms of the environment that we are in. But this is why sometimes we tend to be a bit more complacent, right? In terms of the legal conditions, some of the key business clauses. Yeah. So I think one thing that I also realized from my experience is um, certain things have to go through legal procedure. I think that is the area where we cannot afford to save money on it, just to safeguard our own interest when we are in a new environment. I mean, in every country, I mean, we're not trying to pinpoint out any specific country, I find, but I find that in any country, be it in Singapore, right? Yeah, because in any country there are people who are good, right? And there are people who are, probably didn't do not so ethical in terms of business. But then we are not trying to scrutinize anyone here. But I think this is a good learning point, even from myself. I picked up a lot when I was venturing in Indonesia. It wasn't as simple as it seemed. A lot of the thing has this thing called underwater. If you realize, everything goes by connections,
Right, right.
go by your network who are there. So something that we like to call is in all these new or foreign country, you need to have an Indian chief, right? You do need to have an Indian chief that sits in the country, know the gameplay and then help you in terms of your business expansion, right? But again, having an Indian chief in a country is also quite expensive lah. I mean, I mean technically they need to survive, right? They don't work for
Right.
free. How do you make sure that the business stay afloat from your perspective? Do you think this is a major challenge for you in the local market?
Yeah. To be honest, like
Yeah.
it is something that I've dealt with like in the recent months as well. Like like now the market's a bit slower in Cambodia. There was like almost like an extended period of time we didn't have a single project for 6 to 7 months. And it's crazy. It's like quiet, no projects coming in. I mean, of course, everybody would say like, oh, the cost of Cambodia is lower and things like that. It's true to a certain extent, but especially when you're like a foreigner in Cambodia, you have to like, put into account all of the things like your rent, all of your like visas and all of those other external things that the locals would not have to pay. And you have to get involved in like the rent for the office, the staff salary and things like that. There was this time where I would say like it's still very important to always have like a source of income coming from elsewhere or support coming from where you are, where you are based off. So yeah, so like through these months, notice that having like savings and having like a backup plan is very important, especially when you're in a foreign land and anything can happen, especially when you're here. I actually heard of like people that have lived in Cambodia and they have got into like a accident or something like that, and they don't have the extra finance to take care of the problem, and it becomes it just snowballs into a much bigger problem after that, right?
Right.
So yeah, like like although people say like sustaining yourself in Cambodia is not so hard or things like that, you always have to be cautious and take preventive measures to just kind of keep yourself in the greens. Like yeah, you don't want to get into one of those problems where you get stuck, basically. Yeah.
I see. But what are some of the interesting projects that you have done before? I mean, is there anything in particular that you find is very significant to your portfolio?
Yeah, so over the past 4 years, we have worked on quite a few different projects here in Cambodia, and like in the different industries for media, creative, and digital. And some of the earlier works that we did was with Miss Universe when we were creating like for the local competition. They were having like these beauty pageants here, so we were creating videos and yeah, filming and creating videos for them. That was one of our earlier works. And then after that we did a bit of things to do with like certain celebrities. Some of them are like local singers or actresses, so we also do like quite a bit of projects with them here locally, like photo shoots, video content and things like that. Certain other things we have done, non-profit organization,
Yeah.
NGOs and social enterprises as such. I've worked on a few like branding projects as well, that we rebranded a social enterprise that was pretty much based on like what they had was like this little filter thing that goes through like a ceramic filter, and then it filters water. So basically unclean water, you can just put it through the filter and it comes up with like clean drinking water. So they were actually kind of like doing this in the provinces before, but they wanted to kind of like rebrand the entire brand to kind of like put it in a more lifestyle type of setting, like a more household type of setting as well. So I was involved in the whole rebranding project because they had a very NGO front before, and then we just had to kind of like rebrand them into like this lifestyle and like household brand. Yeah. So there's quite a lot of projects that we get to do like this, and especially in Cambodia, there's a lot of NGOs as well. So yeah, these are some of the projects that we can look forward.
I see. I mean, for your case right now, is there any specific industry that you are more focused in?
Right now we are actually quite general, and it's like we
Mm.
are not really focused down on one thing. Like recently we did a event filming like project. So it was like for this a really large concert in Cambodia. And it was also partnering up with one of another Singaporean business. So they are basically a events company.
Ah,
Yeah,
I see.
so we work together with them to do like a behind the scenes video. So
I
it's like
see.
sometimes I think for us, we don't really have like a very focused industry or particular industry that we work with, but we
Mm.
do cover quite a wide range of, yeah.
Yes, because something came to my mind because because you're in the creative industry, right? Because usually it's quite a common practice for software company to actually host a product launch, right? Whenever there's a new series of product, right, from their list that is ready. So some company even run it from a year-to-year basis. So each year when they wrap up or when there's a new update, just like how Apple launched their iPhone, right? Each year there'll be a launch day whereby Tim Cook will go out the stage, right, share a lot more. But all these things takes a lot of marketing, right, creative work, right, as well as filming, right, that is happening behind the scene before all these things get presented on the actual stage. Yeah, I think probably this is a quite interesting area to venture in because I do believe there are a lot of software companies that run product launch quite often, I think. So probably this is quite a lucrative or attractive area to also venture in. Yeah, probably I may need your help in the future too, right? Yeah, because seeing your logo is much more nicer than ours. Probably we need
Uh,
to do a rebranding.
thanks for the, yeah. But yeah, like yeah, locally, like I feel like in Cambodia, there's really a lot of like new brands coming in, some like brands that you have never heard of before.
Mm,
And the locals are also like pretty entrepreneurial as well. I would say comparing like an average Singaporean to a Cambodian, like I would say like a Cambodian would be most likely to open a business over a Singaporean.
yeah.
I think maybe in certain sense, like in Singapore, we are a lot conditioned to kind of like, work and then
Mm,
like get paid to have salary.
yep.
And that was also kind of like one of the challenges I was like, facing as well, because like back in Singapore, I was partnering with my friends on like projects and things like that, but I was always a salaried staff.
Mm,
So it when I came here, it became a challenge as well to like try to like start something on my own, because back then you kind of expect like, oh, where's the money coming, man? And now it's like, oh no, if you don't do anything, you're not getting any money at all, So
that's true.
yeah, so it's kind of like the locals are a bit more accustomed to like, fending for themselves. So kind of like opening up business and things like that. And a lot of them actually start right in front of their doorstep. Like they usually open up a shop in front of their house and then they just
Mm,
start selling. And then that's where they
yep.
get started. Yeah.
I
So
know
it's
that
very, very different. Yeah.
yeah, that's a very interesting sight to see when you are in Southeast Asia, like Thailand, Cambodia,
Yeah.
and Vietnam. They have the same view, right? Where it's a local culture for people to start running business right at their doorsteps. And I mean, looking at it also, this is something that you don't really. I mean, technically, you don't see it in Singapore. Singapore already evolved to a stage whereby they can never allow this to happen. The land is not enough even for the commercial side already. But
Right.
this is also quite common sight in Malaysia, right? But of course, Malaysia now is getting lesser as the country gets developed. Right? Definitely, I think this is still a way of thinking, right, to actually perceive it as, the country is growing. There are a lot more opportunity. I mean, this is how we evolve. Last time Singapore used to be like this as well. People just start up food store right at their doorstep. But this is how we evolved to where we are today, right? But I think one of the interesting topic that I think personally I would also like to understand more also on our audience side. probably is this. What is the level of salary in Cambodia as compared to Singapore or in the region, Southeast Asia countries?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people have this question about like salaries in Cambodia, and
Yeah,
of course we do have like numbers, figures that people put out on the average salary or like the minimum wage and things like this in Cambodia, but it also really varies. So like I've heard of like the locals, if they are like, for example, like a filmmaker, like a videographer,
yeah.
they want to apply for a job that is with a local company, then sometimes they might be paying them $200 to $300 a month, US dollars, by the way. So
Right.
200 to 300 US dollars a month if they are starting out. And then if you move over to like a more international company, they could be paying somewhere along the lines of like 500 to 600.
Mm,
And if you go into like a Chinese speaking company that requires you to speak Chinese or things like that, it can go all the way up to like 800 to $1,000. So yeah, there's kind of like quite like different markets and also different requirements that, but when you compare it to Singapore, of course we can't compare it because like Singapore salary would be a lot more than this. And also like the requirements here and things like that, sometimes they require you to do multiple things at one time. Like they don't just get you in as a videographer, you need to be
yeah.
able to do Photoshop, you need to be able to do all of the different softwares and things like that. Sometimes it's like when people, especially for like foreigners coming in here, they have to get used to like the difference in like the salary. And of course, like we mentioned, the cost of living is not the same as well, so
Yeah.
it's slightly cheaper, slightly lower expenses every month. I mean, like when you compare like buying power and things like that, I won't say it's very high as well.
Probably that's a good area to venture in because I was considering setting up a base in Cambodia as well. Yeah, we
Right.
should definitely catch up on this topic after our podcast sessions.
Yeah, for sure.
Because definitely having to have an internship in Cambodia is way better than relying on your own, right? Because technically for tech business we couldn't travel. Of course we do travel, but in a new market definitely we still need someone who is familiar with the local environment. There
Right.
are definitely certain officials that work differently from how we are working right here in Singapore. Right. Yeah, definitely we can take this offline. So I think right here we come to the session of rapid fire. All right, just to throw some immediate questions on, for example, right, today imagine you have a supernatural power, right, to travel either back in time or going ahead in time, right, going to the future, right. What would be your choice?
Well, I have always have this like fascination about like the future, I would say, and hence our company name and pretty much like all the aspects of my life, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's just like this very wishful thinking of like the future in my head. Like the future could be beautiful, the future could be wonderful. And like in the reality of our lives where we are, sometimes we notice like in our daily lives, we always face a lot of like challenges and things like that. And sometimes we just wish that we could be in the future, but sometimes it's also a very like I think it's quite a special thing for you to revisit the past and
Yes.
also look at the progress you have walked through, the things that you have done, the things that you have accomplished to get to where you are today. So like I think if there's a superpower, if something that we can do, I think it's about living the best life today, like
Mm,
because I love the future and I appreciate the past, but the most important thing that you can do, like in with anyone at all, like the most important thing that you can do is to make the decision like now, right now, like what do you want to do, what you want to say, what you want to act on. I mean, as simple as mundane as it sounds, I just wish that sometimes, at my level, sometimes just being less afraid and more courageous to do things to make it happen. Because I think by doing that, you actually learn a lot of things. When you discover things, that's how you grow. That's how you become a better version of yourself. So yeah, that's kind of like, how I see this.
Yeah, so yeah, basically into the moment, right? Just
Yeah.
each travel. But the thing about being more courageous sometimes also takes a bit of I don't know. I mean, better understanding of the future. Don't you think? If you really have to choose, right, back in time or into the future, but if you were to go into the future, right, so that you can make change based on where you are right here today, right, what would you look out for?
I think the future is a pretty interesting landscape because like
Yeah.
you have seen like now with AI, with all those things, advancements in technology and things like that, the world is changing so much quickly, and of course everyone would try to paint like this optimistic view of the future where you see like beautiful cities, floating buildings, and like spaceships and things like that. That's kind of like the future
Like,
we all
like
envision.
Star Wars.
Yeah, something like that, like I mean, I've always been very fascinated with all the sci-fi movies and things like
Yeah.
that. For me, I'm not sure, have you watched the movie Divergent?
Oh, Divergent. Is it like into the future or something like that?
It's kind of like this post-war reality that people,
Okay.
yeah, so
What,
that
what's
they,
the
they
movie
like,
about?
yeah, so like people were divided into like different factions based on like
Uh,
different like properties of like being a human and things like that. Later two or three series after that sucked, but the first one was good, and it was just showing kind of like that future that humans are like being sectioned off into their own type and things like that, and they were just living in this like city that was destroyed after the war and things like that,
right.
trying to rebuild the whole society and things like that with the new model and things. So I was like, wow, that's kind of like, I see like that's kind of like what's happening to humans as well, like now we are being like classified under you are this, you are that, you are this, you are that.
Mm.
But one of the group of people that stand up was the divergent. That means there were this group of people that couldn't fit into anything at all. And the authorities were trying to like hunt these people down because they were like a threat to the society and things like that.
Mm.
So I was like, wow, that's kind of like, the world we are today as well, like
I think
we are
so. Right.
always.
Sometimes movie can be quite true, right? Like certain movies that are more sci-fi, they really do paint the picture of how the future will be. I think which is exactly the direction that we are moving in, like you mentioned, artificial intelligence. Right now, we are having more AIs to replace, even human being. I mean, it is something that is a fact, but we don't usually say it out that, this solution is going to replace human being, right? So that means human species will have to find new tasks or new work to do, right, to stay self-sufficient or to even survive, right? I
Right,
think this
right.
is sometimes it gets people excited, but at the same time you feel a bit worried about the future because
Yeah.
you know that with AI in the picture, sometimes it can go a bit wild, right? Because there's always two spectrum, right? The very extreme one and the very more safe and secure one. But usually with AI, sometimes if you try ChatGPT or Mid Journey, Stable Diffusion, all these solutions that are powered by AI, you do realize how impactful it is, right? Sometimes it can totally replace a existing position or role in your company because
Right, right.
this solution can technically just fulfill whatever you could have tasked someone else to do, and this person would have spent 1 hour doing it. But on the OpenAI platform, technically you just spend literally seconds, right,
Yeah.
in terms of generating the content. Yeah, I think this is something that I find really amazing and it's very revolutionary in terms of changing the way that we are working in the current space. Yeah, I mean, just one question, right? To ask yourself, I mean, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years?
Yeah, so like first of all, like I'm very honored to be in Cambodia, and like I think being in this space is one of the best gifts that I ever had. And I still see myself being here after 3 to 4 years time, and like I do believe that there's a future here. That's why like I'm here, right? Otherwise I'll be somewhere else or something like that. And yeah, like building a business and everything, of course you would wish the business to grow and things like that. But for me, that is although like the goal, I would say that I would love to build like more bridges with people around and to get to know more people, to hear more of their stories as well, to know about their heart for Cambodia or like why they are moving here. So yeah, like I feel like in 3 to 4 years down the road, other than expanding this studio to go into like more different areas and things like that, I would love
Mm.
to be connected with more people.
Yeah.
And I think people is always the thing that we should always be looking for. It's like people are the ones that bring color and character into lives. So like
Mm.
yeah, humans are interesting people. So
Definitely.
yeah.
But how would you see Futurescape scale in 3 years' time? Where do you think the business will be?
Well, I think we would be working because like as you know right now there's a lot of things coming on with
Mm.
AI and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So I could imagine a lot of what we can do today would be probably AI assisted or probably AI run by
Mm.
in the next few years. I think we need to try to figure out as well how do we keep ourselves as humans? How do we keep
Mm.
ourselves still relevant to what the market needs? So
Yeah.
like for example, one of the things I would say like we need to do to ensure like the future is still here is that we need to try to innovate new ideas, to innovate new concepts, and to always try to figure something out, to figure new methods to do things, to figure a more efficient way to get things done. Like sometimes it's also about to get rid of the traditions that we kind of have. Like even as we build companies and things like that, there's gonna be traditions and things like that we put in place. But sometimes it's about getting rid of it and be open to new ideas and new
Mm.
concepts. Yeah, so this is kind of like where we see ourselves in the next 3 to 4 years, that we will keep innovating and we will keep finding new solutions for the new problems. Yeah.
I see. Well, would you say that would also be your definition of a successful company?
Yeah, I would say like if you are able to always stay ahead of games. I mean, time has proven it. Like back in the early 2000s, 2010s, and we have seen a lot of companies that have rose up and then like just flop after that, and we have seen a lot of this. And I noticed that the companies, like the big corporations that still exist today, they are
Mm.
always very open to changes and
Yeah.
things like that. And that is what always keeps them ahead. And when we scale it down to our own personal level with our like, I mean, like we have smaller companies and things like that. We can take that what we learn from them and all the mistakes they have made, all the good things they have done, and then we can kind of like learn from there and apply it into our company. And yeah, that's what I would say a successful company would be. It would be one that is open-minded, always innovating, always finding new things to do.
I would agree because one thing that I think in the local market is they usually practice a lot on frugal innovation. By frugal, that means doing something that is low cost but proven to be effective in terms of improving from someone else's solution or business idea, or leveraging on existing ideas to make it better. Yeah, I think thank you so much, Sam, for joining us. And that brings us to the end of an exciting episode of Tech Me There. So, as we conclude, keep in mind that every entrepreneur starts with an idea and determination. So, take the first step, pursue your passion, and of course, right, keep inspiring others along the way. Thank you for joining us on Tech Me There. Until next episode, stay inspired and keep pushing boundaries. Ciao.